Hello, my name is B.J. Paris. Welcome to Tapping Into His Treasures. How is everybody? I'm doing well a little better anyway, and I hope you are all well too. So yes, I'm still having some trouble with my tailbone after a couple of weeks, and it's just going to take time to heal. And I've been away. I just came back a couple of nights ago, and it's time to record and bring you up to date on some things. It's mostly going to be impromptu today, but we are going to get into the proverbs a little bit after I share some thoughts. So, I went to see my family in Maine. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. I have two great grandbabies. One's 5 and one's 4. I saw the 5-year-old when he was 3 months old, and I haven't seen him since. And the little girl is 4, and it's the first time I got to see her, little Kylie. And she looks exactly like her mom, like my granddaughter. It was such a thrill for me to see a little clone of my granddaughter. And we were out in my son's backyard, and he's got a lot of trees. And she hit those trees like a little Tarzan, or like a little monkey, climbing and climbing just like a little tomboy. So that was a very special time. So before I even get into the visit, I want to make a shout out. I may have in my last show, but I can't remember. So just in case I forgot to, I want to shout out to Junebug. He's a fellow that I met on the bus, the rabbit transportation, a few weeks ago. And we spoke on the bus, and then we both had appointments at the same hospital, and so we rode back also, and we got to talking. And he has an actual name, and I can't remember his name, but it was an unusual name, and I had never heard it before, and it was a nice name. But he goes by Junebug, and I remember saying to him, those are my initials backwards, BJ, Junebug. And he goes, I know they are. He picked up on that too. So, shout out to Junebug, and also the other people on the bus that day. We had great, I think there were 3 or 4 of us, and we had a great time. One was Micah, the bus driver. He was new. And a blonde lady, I didn't get her name, but we were talking about the COVID and the pandemic and what people are going through today and sickness and so forth. This lady who was with the bus system, she hollered out that she may have used the words called on or claimed or something to that effect. She called on the blood of Jesus to protect her every day. And boy, that was my opening to talk about Jesus in church. So we did share prayer requests and so forth, and a story about our grandchildren and lives and so forth. And she did have a couple of prayer requests for her. I think she has 2 grandchildren with some very serious problems, life-threatening. And I just want to shout out to her, and I've been praying for her family. So hold on, I don't want to miss anything here. Okay, so my son has a beautiful property. He's a businessman, and it was a very, very special time, and all my relatives came to see me. One girlfriend took me out for lunch, and I had Maine haddock, fried haddock on a sandwich. It was so delicious. And then she took me for a ride out to the ocean. I know, eat your heart out, eat your hearts out. And as we were traveling out to the ocean, she had the radio set on the old-fashioned, old, whatever you call it, style music from the 1940s and 1950s. So we were just singing our hearts out, and it was a truly wonderful, beautiful fall day. So after that comes my trip home on the plane. I did the 8 hours with my youngest son, who visited me, and he took me back with him, and we stopped. It took us 12 hours all total, because we stopped. We stopped, and he had a cigarette like every 45 minutes, and I would use the restrooms some of the time, and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't even think I could handle a trip back by car, so I ended up coming back on the plane. So the flight there was great. Well, I guess I'll tell you about that first. The flight there was great. I mean, the first flight from Portland, Maine to Baltimore, that was great. I met this lady on the plane. Actually, ouch, my back. Sorry about that. Oh, I've been ouching and ouching for 2 weeks now. And I saw this lady at the gate. I was at the gate in the wheelchair because I have to be pushed. And I saw her walking back with one of those small suitcases that you pull if they're on wheels. And I wasn't sure why she was walking back and forth so many times. And then I realized she was looking for a place to sit. She was 75, but she looked a lot older. And then I noticed her lean up against a pole that was in the middle of the floor just to rest her back. And I thought, oh my gosh, there wasn't one man in the whole entire gate area of the terminal that would get up and give her a seat. Not one. When I told my youngest son this, he had a bloody fit. He was so upset when he heard that. But anyway, when I saw her leaning against the pole, I tried to get her attention because I made like room on my wheelchair that I could share it with her, that she could have plopped on a section of it, but she didn't see me. So anyway, came time to pre-board, and there had to be 300 people on that flight that day. Maybe the maximum was 250, I don't know, but it seemed to me that there were like 300 people. And I just prayed that God would put her right next to me, of all those people. And what do you think? He did. We had a space in between us. I think it was the only space extra on the whole airplane, because from what I could see. So I was by the window, and then there was the empty seat, and then the lady sat there. And she was from Poland. And she was visiting Maine, her daughter and her grandson. Oh, her son-in-law also. And we had a delightful conversation. And she told me that if she could move to Maine, she would move there in a heartbeat. She loved Maine. And Maine is beautiful. If you ever get a chance, go on a vacation to Maine. So we saw a whole bunch of stuff. I just think this is interesting. That's why I'm telling you. Of all the traveling she's done and of all the traveling I've done by plane, I've never seen clouds the way I saw them on this trip. And I tapped her. I'm going, look, look, look. The clouds are all in formation. And all that I could see was, instead of just the clouds like this, they look like snow, like cotton candy. All of a sudden, there were formations like this. One looked like a great big castle, maybe like 30 or 40 feet high. And all these designs that I've never seen before, and I always sit by the window seat. It was incredible. So she took pictures. My camera was under the seat in front of me, and my phone was under the seat in front of me, so I didn't really have time to try to find them and put it on airplane mode, etc. So she took a bunch of pictures at least. And so after that, we're just riding along, and toward the end of the flight, she taps me on the arm, and I look around, and she said, this is crazy. She asked me, have you ever read the book, Come Spring? Well, I just about fell out of my seat. I said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you asked me that. I said, yes, I read that book about 12 years ago, and my son read it. We both read it. And matter of fact, after my son and I read it all those years ago, we went to the cemetery to find the graves of all the people that were listed in the book that had to do with the early settlers in Warren, Maine and Union, Maine. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So anyway, I told her that I had read the book about 12 years ago, and interestingly, I had just brought up, when I was riding with my son 3 days earlier, I brought up the book Come Spring after 12 years. And I said, do you remember, this is what I said to my son, do you remember we both read the book Come Spring, and we went to the cemetery to find the graves of Joel and all these people in the book. And I said, that was one of the best days of my life, because the cemetery up in Union, Maine overlooks Penobscot Bay, and the scenery was so beautiful, the blue waters and the calmness. It was like a scene that belonged someplace else near a mountain or a valley or something, but not in a cemetery. But we were blessed with that. And I couldn't walk very far, so I would drive to different sections and then get up and walk. And then he would walk to all the sections. And if he found a particular person, he would yell out, "Mom, I found this guy, I found this woman," you know. So we were just talking about it 3 days before I get on this airplane. So the woman says to me, out of the clear blue, "Have you ever read Come Spring?" So, you know, I was in shock. And I told her what I just told you guys. And, excuse me, I said, I believe that God is talking to me through you. I think he's giving me a message. And that message might have been, come spring, or when the spring comes, God is going to bring something into my life, maybe physical healing. That's what I'm hoping for. But the way that the title of the book, Come Spring, what was derived is the settlers back then, they didn't have any money. They didn't even have food unless somebody shot a moose. And sometimes in the middle of the winter, they weren't fortunate enough to shoot a moose, and they would go without food. And there was so much snow, and the rivers were frozen, and they couldn't travel the way they could in better weather. And so every time they would see each other, or whether they were having a barn raising party or whatever they did together, worship together on a Sunday morning, they would always say to each other, "Come spring," and that meant to them, when the spring comes, things will be different. We will have plenty of food, and life will be much better. So that's how they greeted each other. Come spring, come spring. Like we would say to each other nowadays, hello, or good afternoon, have a nice day. They would say, come spring. So that's where that came from. So I just thought that was quite novel of God, out of 300 passengers, to plop her right next to me when I prayed specifically that he would. And for her to come out of the clear blue and ask me that question. And just to add to that little testimony, the woman, when we discussed the book a little bit, the woman thought they were just characters in a book. She did not know that they were all real people and their names were all exactly the names they had. They were real people. Because I remember investigating the author, and the author, Ben Ames Williams, actually, I forgot where he lived down south maybe, went to Maine and he interviewed relatives of all those people, those early settlers. He wanted to get the facts straight. And then he embellished the book, of course. You know, he added some embellishment. So she was like floored when I told her they were real people that the author wrote about. And so then she proceeded to tell me that her book was in such bad quality, the pages were torn, and so she didn't have the book any longer. And I think she ended up giving it away even though it was in bad shape. And she said she's tried to get the book and she couldn't. So maybe it's not in stock anymore. And I said to her, I can get you that book. I said, all that you have to do is to call Union, Maine, the Historical Society. And if they can't help you, call the library in Union, Maine, and they will get you that book. Because that's how I acquired my book. Because the one I originally read, I borrowed from my neighbor. But then I bought one for my son, and I had to go through Union, Maine. So when if you could have seen her face when I gave her the information, she was just ecstatic. So that was just delightful. I gave her my card so she can keep in touch with me if she chooses to. So then, I know this doesn't have to do with the Proverbs, but I'm hoping that you enjoy these stories. So then we arrive in Baltimore, and everybody's having trouble getting help today. And sure enough, it was the same thing. They couldn't get anybody to push me in the wheelchair. Well, I shouldn't have been surprised because last August when I flew to Pennsylvania, in Baltimore, they couldn't get anybody to push me. And who do you suppose ended up pushing me from the airplane to the terminal last August? The captain of the plane. When everybody saw him push me into that terminal, all eyes were on us, and people were yelling out things, "Oh my gosh, you hit the jackpot," and all those things. So this time, it wasn't the captain, it was a flight attendant, a nice young man. I had to wait for all the passengers to depart the aircraft, and that was like half an hour. And the young flight attendant had no choice, but he pushed me all the way to the terminal, and he left me near some booth with some airline representatives. And I had to wait another half an hour for somebody to come and push me. They called different sections and people, and they couldn't get anybody. All the time I needed to use the restroom, and there I sat. There I sat. And my people that were picking me up, I communicated with them by phone. They were still 15 minutes out, which I was glad about. I didn't want them waiting for an hour for me. Where they park outside the incoming and all that. So half an hour later, the fella comes to push me. And so we made the stop in the rest place. And then we head for a baggage claim. And I couldn't believe what I saw. You know how the suitcases always go around the turnaround? Apparently, all the cases, this is an hour later, all the cases had gone around already, and mine had to be the only one left because it wasn't even on the turnaround. We're walking straight to go to the restroom, and there's a suitcase, my suitcase, standing off by a wall all by itself with no people. And the pusher, they call those who push the wheelchairs, they call them the pushers. He said, "Is that your suitcase?" I said, "It sure looks like it." And I gave him my name, and he checked the label, and sure enough, it was my suitcase. Well, are you thinking of the same thing that I'm thinking of? Oh my gosh. Anybody could have come along and taken that suitcase, and nobody would have known the difference. I am lucky, blessed, thrilled that nobody touched it or took it. So I usually pull it by myself from the wheelchair, but he wouldn't even let me do that. So he pushed me with one hand, and he pulled the suitcase with the other, and it was heavy. And after that, we couldn't communicate with my ride, But anyway, we finally did. And my phone was ringing off the hook while it was there, and I'm telling everybody, I can't talk. So that was the story of my adventures. So I came home, I hit that bed, and I slept like a baby. And I'm still kind of a little jet lagged, but I'm back to normal. And here I am. I couldn't wait to share this with everybody. So let me check. We don't have much time now, but I just want to read a couple of proverbs. I love the sounds in the proverbs. So just let me read a few. Maybe some of you can apply these to your lives today. A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches. Our hope and expectation shall not be cut off. Have you ever been to the end of your rope and gave up hope that God would ever come through for you, and just before you threw in the towel, God came through for you? I just got through telling people last night at a prayer meeting I went to that God is a last-minute God, and He will not fail you. In this one, do not associate with wine bibblers. Why not, you ask? Because they will keep insisting that you drink with them and insist that you have just one more, and just one more all through the night. It would be no different than reading. Do not associate with drug addicts, because a user will not let you be in their company without hounding you to take a dose of a drug, telling you that it will just be a one-time thing. First of all, it will never be just a one-time thing. And secondly, do you know how many people have lost their lives thinking that they were being given something entirely different, and it turned out to be deadly? It happens all the time. I think God knew what He was talking about. This just happened to my friend a year ago. the same thing, not to her, but her family member. And she's gone today. Here's another. He teaches us not to try to solve important cases on our own, but to seek help from many wise counselors, plural, to gain victory and safety. That's what I call a caring father. And I just shared that verse with one of my sons on my trip. Don't try to fix things on your own, but the Bible says go to a multitude of counselors and you will have victory. I just want to pass that on to you today. And this one, let another one praise you and not your own lips. How many people on Facebook are just bragging about themselves, how wonderful they are? It's sickening, nauseating. So the Bible tells us, let another man's lips praise you and not yourself. Okay, Proverbs 15. This was the first proverb that I ever read. 1. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. 2. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. 3. The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. 4. The soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. 5. A fool spurns a parent's discipline, but whoever heeds correction shows prudence. 6. The house of the righteous contains great treasure, but the income of the wicked brings ruin. I want to check my time. Okay, we're still good. 7. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, but the hearts of fools are not upright. 8. The Lord detests the sacrifice of the wicked, but the prayer of the upright pleases him. 9. The Lord detests the way of the wicked, but he loves those who pursue righteousness. 10. Stern discipline awaits anyone who leaves the path. The one who hates correction will die. That means not die physically, but die spiritually. Experience death-like circumstances. 11. Death and destruction lie open before the Lord. How much more do human hearts? 12. Mockers resent correction, so they avoid the wise. Isn't that the truth? 13. A happy heart makes the face cheerful, but heartache crushes the spirit. 14. The discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of a fool feeds on folly. 15. All the days of the oppressed are wretched, but the cheerful heart has a continual feast. 16. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. 17. Better a small serving of vegetables with love than a fattened calf with hatred. Okay, we're going to have to skip our prayer time today. 18. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quiet. A hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. That's kind of a tongue twister. 19. The way of the sluggard is blocked with thorns, but the path of the upright is a highway. 20. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish man despises his mother. I don't know if I'm going to go anymore. Oh, just a couple more. 21. Folly brings joy to one who has no sense, but whoever has understanding keeps a straight course. 22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. 23. A person finds joy in giving an apt reply, and how good is a timely word. 24. The path of life leads upward for the prudent, to keep them from going down to the realm of the dead. 25. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but he sets the widow's boundary stones in place. I'm going to stop there. So I would just encourage you on your own to read, did I say that was Proverbs 15? We stopped at 25. There are several more. Just when you have some time, go on your own and pick up where we left off and read the rest of them in your private homes. Do that, would you? And I think maybe we will have time for the Lord's Prayer. If you bow your heads with me. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Lead us not into temptation, but from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. And Father, I just want to pray for each person watching. He's looking down. He sees you watching a Christian show, and that means a lot to him. So I ask and pray for a specific blessing on you and your families. Stay healthy. God, keep each person healthy. Keep them safe. Keep their eyes on Jesus. And don't let them get discouraged even because of the pandemic. And I tell you, I know what that's like. I traveled over 500 miles last week, and I couldn't even get a hug from one of my sons because he was too nervous. And I had to sit on the porch, and he had to stand on the patio because well, I won't say why. He was just nervous because of the pandemic. And that was very heartbreaking for me. So God knows all of these things. He knows everything that you're going through, and it's a great concern to him because he's your daddy. Okay, guys, thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless yours. God keep you, and God keep yours. Till the next time. Bye-bye for now.